There are people who believe and trying to push the belief that CBDC and Bitcoin are the same thing or at least similar. And I'm here to let you know that that's not the case. Let's look at what happened in 1933 in the United States of America, the land of the free. In the 1933, the US was on an economical crisis. And how did the government get out of that crisis? By confiscating everybody's gold. Gold was a form of property that the government could not print more of it. Yes, they could invest on mines and extract more gold, but they could not print more gold. So what did the government do? They confiscate everybody's money, they put a price of $35 per ounce of gold, and they forced everyone to give their gold in exchange for a piece of paper. Why they did that? Because they can control that piece of paper. As soon as that exchange occurs, they continue to print more dollars, and you already know that 1 ounce of gold today, it is not $35. Now, Bitcoin gives a chance for us to have our property on our hands again. Bitcoin, for a lot of people, is gold 2.0. To me, Bitcoin is the highest manifestation of property. Why is that? Because it is one piece of asset that no government can freeze, no government can control the transaction, unlike CBDCs. CBDCs will be giving a lot of more power to the government. They'll be able to determine where we spend, when we spend, and how quick we spend that money, and many other things. That's why it's important for you to understand that CBDCs is a form of innovation that gives a lot more power to governments and will enable governments to continue financing more wars. Bitcoin, on the other hand, cannot be created more than 21 million. No matter how much power, how much money you put into mining Bitcoin, you're never going to be able to increase the supply. And it's not just that CBDCs are different than Bitcoin. CBDCs are also different than the current form of money. CBDCs enable the government to have total control over every single transaction that you make, to monitor those transactions, to freeze those transactions, and to reverse those transactions. For instance, if the government decides that tomorrow you have to pay, instead of 10% taxes, 15% taxes, they can do that with just a few strokes on the computer, and everyone is going to have their money taken from their wallets. They also can impose single restrictions for certain individuals. For instance, let's say the government decides that there's too many people in the hospital because of causes of smoking too much. They can just say each person who's a smoker can only buy 1 pack per day, and you won't be able to buy more because the CBDC, they'll be able to see what you're buying and who you're paying on every transaction that you make. And I know some people are going to argue saying that CBDCs are not for totalitarian regimes, but let's look at the countries that are implementing, such as China. China is known as a surveillance state. The amount of cameras in China surveilling their population is just enormous. And now China is trying to use CBDCs to also have total surveillance on the transactions, every single transaction made by the population. Now, regardless if you believe that CBDCs are for totalitarian regimes or not, there's one thing we all can agree, and that is staying informed is key. So please subscribe to the channel. And there are those who may say that CBDCs are totalitarian and without freedom because it's being implemented in China. Whenever CBDCs will be implemented in the US, things are going to be different. Here's what I have for you. Look at what happened recently. Russia invaded Ukraine, and what did the US do? They froze Russian assets. And not just Russian assets, they also froze assets from civilians. And now, years after the invasion, they're talking about not just freezing, but confiscating those assets, not just from the government, but also from the wealthy Russian population. That is, government infringing the rights of civilians from other countries. And if you believe that's not going to happen to you, I would say think twice, 3 times, because it may happen to you the same way it happened in 1933 with the entire American population, when the government confiscated everybody's gold under the penalty of 10 years in prison or $10,000 fine. And that triggers some countries to believe that same situation could occur to them. Because remember, in the world of geopolitics, there are no friends, just common interests. So countries are starting to think, what if tomorrow the US label us as enemies? And remember, the animosity between the US and Europe continues to increase. Now other countries, when they saw that, they decided to get more gold. They want to stash more gold because gold is one asset that cannot be controlled and cannot be manipulated. And in my view, there's going to be a matter of time before those same nations realize the power of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is different than gold. Bitcoin is not physical, which means does not have the problems that gold has. Gold has a problem. It does really well through time, but does not do well through space. Whenever you need to transport gold, you have a problem because it is hard to transport and there is very high cost in transporting gold. And we have instances in history where one ship, for instance, were navigating with tons of gold to make one single payment. And guess what happened? That ship sunk. Those risks we do not have with Bitcoin. Bitcoin does extremely well through space and through time. We are at the moment in history where power is going to shift and the future of money is going to be decided by each individual. Your decision will determine what the future of money will be. And it's not just a decision of you as an individual, it is also a decision of the government. If the governments choose to give regulations that are friendly towards cryptocurrencies, that country will have more monetary freedom. If a country decides to implement CBDC and make rules that are not friendly towards cryptocurrency, that country is going to have a totalitarian regime. And in the end, it could be that you as an individual may not only have to choose what kind of money you want to use, but also which country you want to live on. Because if your country is having unfriendly regulation towards cryptocurrency, maybe you have to move or sacrifice your rights to property. In the end, the decision lies up with you. With this, I wrap up this video. So please do not forget to like, subscribe, click the notification bell, and above it all, share this video with someone else who can benefit from this. See you guys next video.